Welcome, I'm Spaceman Steve. This channel is following the search for life on Venus. For decades, observations of Venus's atmosphere haven't all made sense. There's something going on we don't understand. Perhaps we're seeing evidence of small microbes like bacteria in the clouds of Venus. Perhaps we're not. Maybe there's some very unexpected chemical reaction. The best way to find out what's really there is to send probes and look. And that's what the Venus Life Finder project is doing. It's led by Professor Sarah Sager from MIT. She's an expert in searching for life on other planets. This project will send 3 probes to Venus to see what's really there. The probes will analyze the atmosphere and eventually even return a sample of it to Earth. This is an incredible project. And it isn't even a NASA-funded project. The Venus Life Finder is entirely privately funded by the Breakthrough Initiatives Foundation. This foundation is spending over $100 million on fast-moving, high-risk science projects. They are funding scientists to search for life on Venus and throughout the universe, as well as designing probes that can reach other stars. Life as we live it on Earth requires water and a fairly rich chemical environment. Let's talk about the importance of water first. Earth-based life forms like you and me are over half water. We aren't mostly muscle or bone or proteins or DNA. We are mostly water. And that's true of every living thing on Earth, all mostly water. Our biochemical processes rely on our cells being full of liquid water, and biochemical processes won't work in steam. So things die when they get very hot. Processes won't work in a cell frozen into a block of ice. Only liquid water supports life. And that limits the conditions or the climate where we might find life as we know it. The need for liquid water means a fairly narrow range of reasonable temperatures and atmospheric pressures. For example, our moon gets hotter than Earth during the day and much colder than Earth at night, and it has no atmosphere. The moon doesn't have any liquid water, and there's no signs of life on it either. But Venus is very different from our moon. Venus has an atmosphere, rich, dynamic, and even mysterious. We know that 30 miles above the surface, there are chemically rich clouds with liquid water. These clouds hold multiple mysteries. Something is there absorbing lots of ultraviolet light. After decades of study, we haven't been able to explain this mystery. Other measurements show that this mysterious something is not round. That's important because atmospheric droplets are round. So we know there's some kind of particles floating in a chemically rich temperate zone high above Venus, and they aren't simple droplets. Scientists have wondered if some kind of microscopic life forms might explain what we see. Famously, Harold Morowitz and Carl Sagan wrote about the possibility of life in Venus's atmosphere. That was 50 years ago, and we still don't understand what's happening on Venus. Over the next several years, the Venus Life Finder project will send 3 totally different probes to Venus. The first small probe will blaze through the atmosphere and crash into the surface. It will only have a minute or 2 to study the habitable zone. The second probe will include a balloon that will explore the clouds for over a month. The final probe will return samples of the atmosphere all the way to Earth. This is an incredibly exciting and important project, but to really appreciate that, we need some context. The Earth is teeming with life. It is home to plants, insects, reptiles, birds, mammals, fish, bacteria, all sorts of things. Life is in the oceans, on the ground, in the soil, in the air. But we haven't found life anywhere else in our universe. We don't know if life is common or fairly rare, or if it exists only on Earth. And that's a very important and deep question about the nature of our universe. It's the most important scientific question of our time. Lots of scientists are working on this question, and over the next several decades we'll answer it. The Venus Life Finder project is part of this adventure. They are building the very first probe to search for atmospheric life on another planet, and that's historic. In the past, we used telescopes to explore. We learned a lot about physics and chemistry of our universe, but this is the start of a new era, the era of understanding biology throughout our universe. Future generations will look back and be envious of us, envious that we were able to witness historic projects like the Venus Life Finder looking for life on Venus, the James Webb Telescope looking for biosignatures on planets around other stars, and engineers making the initial designs of interplanetary probes. It's a great time to be alive. I should probably say a few words about myself. I have no affiliation with the Venus Life Finder Project or the Breakthrough Initiatives Foundation or anybody else. I get my information from publications like the VLF 100-page mission study, the mission website, journal articles, and reports from groups like the National Academy of Sciences and NASA. My formal science education is limited. I'm yet another YouTuber and self-taught in things like planetary geology, biochemistry, astrophysics. I'm very happy to collaborate with those who know more about this or are very excited about the project. So to recap, this channel will follow the search for life on Venus. It's one of the important adventures of our time. And this is a fairly small project, and that means we can understand it thoroughly and follow it closely. Future videos will be deep dives on each of the 3 spaceships they are sending to Venus. We'll dig into their quirks and features, including the scientific payloads, communication strategy, design constraints, launch schedules. And don't worry if you don't have a science background. I'll provide background and context as it's needed. You'll see how one actually searches for life in our universe and start to understand trade-offs involved in designing uncrewed spaceships. It will be fun and interesting. Your questions and suggestions are very much appreciated. Thanks for watching. I'm Spaceman Steve. Let's all go boldly.